Good afternoon, everybody. This is Holloway with the National Weather Service with Alaska statewide weather for December 16th, 2020. Have a couple options for you to further refine your weather search and look into the watch warnings and advisories that may be out. 1-800 number and weather.gov/Alaska. You can also take off Alaska and put on the 3 offices, Anchorage, Fairbanks, or Juneau. That'll help you get to weather information. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us there at the bottom of the screen. For the hazardous weather, we're going to be looking at some blizzard warnings for until midnight tonight for the northwest coast there. Also, we have some winter weather advisories now in effect until 9 p.m. Thursday, and that's for that interior region. And lastly, we have some winter weather advisories out for the northeast Gulf Coast and winter storm warning for portions of the northern panhandle. Taking a look at the satellite imagery, you can see some lows moving around, mostly south of Alaska, one approaching the Aleutians, one south of the the Alaska Peninsula, and another just south of the Panhandle, and maybe a weak low moving into British Columbia in there. Otherwise, it was noted that we had some freezing fog along the north slope, some blowing snow through much of the Seward Peninsula and into western interior. Otherwise, some light snow showers down through the southwest and Bristol Bay region. And also some light snow across the Panhandle and northeast Gulf Coast and across portions of the interior. So to further bring home the point for today's weather on the surface map, weak low pressure system out on the western Aleutians, 983 millibar low there, and that low approaching the Alaska Peninsula, 983 millibar low with a warm front that looks to be forming into an included front, and also some weak low pressure systems just around and south of the Panhandle, northeast Gulf Coast, and with continued snow showers in the northeast Gulf Coast, southeast interior, and portions of the Panhandle, with light rain possible at the lower elevations, especially at the southern end of the Panhandle. Otherwise, some light snow showers through the west and southwest, with blowing and drifting snow through the Seward Peninsula and freezing fog along the north slope. For tonight's weather, low pressure systems out there in the Aleutians and Bering Sea, mixed precipitation out there, and that low pressing further north through the Gulf, 977 millibar low with an included front. Moderate rain out ahead of that system. Otherwise, along the Panhandle, some light lingering snow showers, and again some blowing and drifting snow with those strong pressure gradients through the interior, and freezing fog along the north slope. For Thursday's weather, low pressure systems continue out there in the Bering Sea, Aleutians area, mixed precipitation, snow showers, and as you move closer to the mainland, snow showers through the Bristol Bay region. Blowing snow continues with those strong pressure gradients around that high pressure system. Freezing fog along the north slope, and the low pressure system in the Gulf moves further north. Moderate rain and moderate snow showers across much of the Panhandle with that occluded front and triple point. For Friday's weather, areas of low pressure system continues in the Bering Sea. Blowing snow conditions, much the same through the Seward Peninsula and western interior. Freezing fog along the north slope. And that low in the Gulf now, 972 millibar low, with an occluded front continuing to push further east. Otherwise, looking at some lingering snow showers through the Panhandle and light rain at the lower elevations of the Panhandle as well. Mixed precipitation across the northern Gulf region and in through the Cook Inlet region and out through the southwest. For low temperatures, Thursday morning, we're going to be looking at 36 in Ketchikan, 36 36 in Sitka, 26 in Juneau, 18 in Haines, Yakutat 28, Cordova area 35, Anchorage 13, 4 in Talkeetna, and then 33 in Kodiak, 25 in King Salmon, 16 in Dillingham. And then starting at the North Slope, looking for Thursday morning again, minus 15 at Kaktovik, Ukqiavik minus 10, Point Hope minus 5, AKwx Pass 33, Adigan Pass 34, and then minus 25 at Fort Yukon, minus 41 in Eagle, minus 20 in Bettles, minus 19 in Tanana, minus 16 in Galena, minus 22 in Fairbanks, minus 18 in Northway, minus 1 in Nome, and 15 out there in Savunga. For low temperatures Thursday morning for the southwest region, again Bethel 3, 0 Aniak, 30s through Alaska Peninsula and through the Aleutians, with 33 in Cold Bay, 31 in Dutch Harbor, 35 in Shemya, and the Pribilofs 34. And looking high temperatures for Thursday morning, 41 now in Ketchikan, 43 in Sitka, 33 in Juneau, 25 in Haines, 33 in Yakutat, 20 in Anchorage, 13 in Talkeetna, 23 in Kenai, 30 in Homer, 40 in Kodiak, 28 in King Salmon, 17 in Dillingham. Moving up to the North Slope, minus 9 in Kaktovik, minus 5 in Ukqiavik, Dead Horse minus 7, Prudhoe Bay area, 0 at Point Hope, minus 13 in AKwx, minus 18 in Fort Yukon, minus 32 in Eagle. Looks like they'll get the overnight low. And then minus 15 in Northway, minus 13 in Fairbanks, minus 10 in Tanana, minus 9 in Galena. And McKinley Park area, minus 7, 3 in Nome, 16 in Savunga. Down through the southwest, 4 in Bethel, 17, like we talked about before, in Dillingham, 30s down through the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, with 37 in Cold Bay, 37 in Dutch Harbor, and 37 in Shemya. Low temperatures now through the Gulf region, 39 in Ketchikan, 37 in Sitka, 23 in Juneau, 17 in Haines, 10 in Anchorage, 3 in Talkeetna, 29 in Kodiak, 11 in King Salmon. Moving up to the North Slope, minus 17 in Kaktovik, minus 8 in Ukqiavik, minus 3 in Point Hope, minus 31 in Fort Yukon, minus 38 in Eagle, minus 27 in Fairbanks, minus 25 in Galena. Down through the southwest, minus 3 in Bethel, 30s through the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, with 35 in Shemya. For Friday afternoon, high temperatures, 43 in Sitka, 44 in Juneau, or 29 in Juneau, 44 in Sitka, 18 in Anchorage, 16 in King Salmon for the North Slope, minus 28 Eagle, minus 1 in Barrow, minus 13 in Fairbanks. Down through the southwest, minus 1 in Bethel, 35 in Cordova, 35 in Cold Bay, 36 in Dutch Harbor, 35.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Joel Curtis with your aviation weather. For our flying weather, starting out Thursday morning, IFR along the North Slope, also the eastern Bering Sea down through southwest Alaska, across Kodiak Island, out into the Gulf, a little bit over the Wrangel Islands, and a bit on the British Columbia border of the Panhandle. For Thursday afternoon, persistent IFR along the North Slope, also the eastern Bering Sea again in southwest Alaska, Cold Bay area, across Kodiak, and on over to almost the entire Panhandle, also a little bit in the Wrangell Mountains. Again, persistent IFR Friday morning along the North Slope, also southwest Alaska, with a little bit over the Wrangell Mountains, and then the northeast Gulf Coast and almost the entire southeast Panhandle. On Friday afternoon, persistent IFR along the North Slope, southwest Alaska again, Kodiak Island, northern southeast, and a little bit in the Hyder area. Past conditions on Thursday, and AKwx, VFR. Adigan, VFR. Lake Clark, marginal VFR. Merrill Pass, marginal VFR, improving to VFR. Rainy Pass, marginal VFR, improving to VFR. Windy, VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mentasta, IFR, all day Thursday. Tonita Pass, marginal VFR. Portage, marginal VFR. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR deteriorating to IFR in the afternoon. Freezing levels at the surface for most of the state, a little bit of 2,000 feet south of Dixon Entrance and off the coast of Kodiak. Our icing forecast on Thursday. Below 3,000 feet, isolated moderate for southern portion of the state, southwest Alaska, and much of the Bering Sea. We do have an area of considerable moderate below 10,000 feet approaching the northeast Gulf Coast and also the Panhandle. A little bit over the Alaska Peninsula, between 2,000 and 8,000 feet, considerable moderate, and below 4,000 feet for the central Aleutians. For a jet stream on Thursday, 75 knot easterlies along the north slope. We do have one significant jet, 115 knot westerlies through Dixon Entrance, and then that subsides a little bit to 80 knot westerlies over the Panhandle and 65 knots over South Central. Also, the main part of the jet is well below the Aleutians. At 9,000 feet, we have 45 to 50 knot easterlies over the northern third of the state. Most of the wind is well south of our flying areas statewide. However, we do have some 55 knot westerlies over the central Aleutians, 40 knot southwesterlies over the eastern Aleutians approaching the Alaska Peninsula, 30 knot westerlies over the Panhandle, and 35 knots through Dixon Entrance. At 3,000 feet, we have an area of 50 knot easterlies over the north slope, and then starting out in the eastern Brooks Range, 40 knots, increasing all the way up to 60 knots over Kotzebue Sound. That reduces quite a bit down to westerlies about 25 knots as you get down into southwest Alaska. We have 30 knots along the northeast Gulf Coast, about 40 knots in Kennedy Entrance area, 50 knots in Shelikof Strait. Also, we have 65 knots over the central Aleutians, and that reduces to about 40 knots as we get into the eastern Aleutians. And I want to point out that in the afternoon on Thursday, expect the winds to ramp up southeasterlies 45 to 50 knots over the Panhandle, especially the coastal areas. And our turbulence on Thursday, an extensive area of considerable moderate over the northern portions of the state with some isolated severe below 6,000 feet. And that would be from Kotzebue Sound eastward and also the Point Hope area. Also, we have a little bit over Kennedy Entrance, isolated severe below 3,000 feet, considerable moderate below 3,000 feet out in the Aleutians, and then as that front approaches the Panhandle, we see isolated severe below 6,000 feet along the Gulf Coast.
Leatherbacks are the largest turtles on Earth, growing up to 7 feet long and weighing more than 2,000 pounds. These sea turtles are among the most highly migratory animals on Earth, some traveling up to 10,000 miles a year between their nesting and feeding grounds. Prevalent in every ocean except the Arctic and Antarctic, the species overall is declining, more so in the Pacific. In the eastern Pacific, the Mexican population was once thought to be the largest in the world and has experienced an alarming decline.
This trajectory of decline that we've seen and actually collapse. We're talking about only 20 or 30 turtles nesting every year, where thousands used to just 40 years ago. That's the kind of dramatic decline.
The western Pacific population has been declining steadily, and it's particularly critical to act now before it collapses, while there are enough turtles in nests to respond to conservation measures. but threats to all leatherbacks in the Pacific need to be addressed.
The top threats to populations are uncontrolled coastal development, all the bad stuff on the nesting beaches, egg harvest, poaching of the females, predation on the eggs by dogs and pigs. Deforestation makes the sand too warm and dry and the eggs don't hatch. Another one is incidental capture in fishing gear. During their vast migrations, they get caught in fishing gear throughout the Pacific. And finally, marine debris, which the leatherbacks mistake for their favorite food, jellyfish, and they choke on those.
Protecting leatherbacks in U.S. waters alone is not enough to ensure the continued existence of the species. The highly migratory nature of Pacific leatherbacks requires cooperation and international collaboration. NOAA is focusing on partnerships with Mexico, Central America, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands in the Pacific.
Our action plan promotes a holistic recovery strategy that addresses all the sources of mortality. So that's basically ensuring that the remaining nesting sites are protected and the nests produce as many hatchlings as possible. And then secondly, in tandem with that, is reducing the fisheries-related mortalities. We're working with international partners to incentivize community participation on the nesting beach conservation and developing alternative livelihood programs that wean communities off leatherback resources and introduce alternative methods for food and income. Recovery is going to take a long time, on the order of 20 to 30 years at least, before we see some of these actions bear fruit. But here in the US, we can all help leatherbacks by making seafood choices, for instance, that support sustainable fishing practices. And beachgoers can certainly do their part by keeping our oceans clean of plastic debris, picking up marine litter, particularly plastic bags.
Together with our partners, we are strengthening protection and conservation efforts to ensure a future for leatherbacks, helping them to survive and once again thrive in the waters of the Pacific Ocean.
For over 40 years, NOAA scientists have been collecting data and piecing together the story of the gray whale. Each year, new discoveries are made, revealing the secrets of this ancient traveler. With the northeastern Pacific population recovered, leading scientists from the NOAA Southwest Fisheries Science Center continue their research efforts to help save the western population from extinction. The most effective way to identify individuals and count the population is to photograph them from the surface. Using the gray whale's distinctive markings and gray spots caused by parasites on their skin, scientists document these characteristics to identify individuals.
So we're able to track migratory pathways and corridors by the simple use of photo identification. There are other ways to do that as well, biopsy sampling and genetics.
And from the air.
Aerial photography is one way you can study animals based on their size and shape. So you can learn a lot about nutritive and reproductive condition of whales just by measuring their size and shape from vertical aerial photographs.
You can also put satellite transmitters on them and track them remotely. You put the transmitter on and let them go, and you watch them move across the Pacific or down to China or wherever it might be.
To further learn and discover where these great sojourners swim, the team of researchers traveled to Russia and set up camp on Sakhalin Island.
The main focus of our research while we were on Sakhalin was to collect photo identification. If it was a whale that we had not collected a genetic sample from previously, we would also attempt to collect a sample from the whales.
Whereas whales are endowed with natural insulation, their human observers must gear up to brave the cold in order to study these marine giants up close.
We're typically only able to work about 1/3 of the time that we're there, and that's mostly due to this fog that just invades the area and sits sometimes for weeks on end. So it can be very challenging to try and do field work in this site.
Recently, 2 whales from the western population surprised scientists by migrating across the Pacific to the waters of California and Mexico.
It's a really fun finding. It's added another piece to the puzzle that we didn't previously know about. And I would have to say that it's opened up more questions than we had before.
Research scientists from Japan, Russia, and the United States share images of animals they've spotted.
We take a photograph of an individual off of Sakhalin Island, and we get a phone call from Japanese scientists, and they say, hey, guess what? We've got a picture of a gray whale in Japan. We say, can you send it to us? We'd love to try and match it. They'll send us the picture, we'll compare it to our catalog, and we'll say, hey, we've got a match from Sakhalin to Japan.
Unlike many species of whales that still remain on the endangered species list, the eastern Pacific gray whale, once on the brink of extinction, now numbers about 20,000 individuals. Recovery efforts that started 40 years ago and the ongoing research and monitoring by NOAA scientists have contributed to the conservation of the gray whales. Together, with legal protection and public education, scientists are playing their part to ensure the survival of this magnificent migratory animal.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge. I was talking to the sea ice forecaster, and she said they did notice some openings up in the ice pack along the Chukchi Sea. Otherwise, some pretty good ice growth through a lot of the west coast. There was some openings there with lower concentrations of ice in the Norton Sound region, but otherwise some pretty good ice growth in the Cook Inlet region as well and Bristol Bay. Marine forecast for southeast, inside waters, winds generally from the southeast at 20 to 25. In the Lynn Canal area, winds northerly at 25, seas as high as 5 feet. For the outside waters, winds generally from the south at 30 to 35 with seas as high as 12 feet. And for Friday's forecast, inside waters, winds generally from the south 20 to 25 with seas as high as 5 feet. And for the outside waters, look like we're going to be expecting some gale force winds there. Winds generally from the south at 30 to 35 with seas as high as 19 feet. For the south central region, Gulf region, looking at winds generally from the east at 30 to 35, seas as high as 11 feet there in the northern Gulf. Otherwise, Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 20, seas as high as 4 feet. Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the north at 20 to 35 with seas as high as 15 feet in the Kamishak Bay region. For Friday, south central region, for the Gulf area, looking at winds variable in direction 25 to 30 with seas as high as 15 feet. Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. And for Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, winds around Kodiak Island, generally from the north at 30, seas as high as 14 feet there through Shelkoff Strait. South side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a westerly direction up to 30, seas as high as 12 feet. And the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from a variable direction 15 to 25 with seas as high as 6 feet. Look for those strong winds in the eastern Aleutians. For Friday, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, winds around Kodiak Island, generally from the west at 20 to 25, seas as high as 11 feet. South side of the peninsula, winds generally from the west at 20, seas as high as 10 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds variable direction 20 to 25 with seas as high as 11 feet. And for Thursday's Aleutian Chain region, winds generally from a westerly direction 25 to 40 with seas as high as 19 feet. Look for gale force winds there. And on the south side of the Aleutians, winds generally from a westerly direction as well, 30 up to 30 with seas high as 18 feet. For Aleutian chain on Friday, winds continue out of the west at 20 to 30 with seas as high as 12 feet just south of Adak and Atka. For West Coast, Thursday, winds generally from the east at 20 to 30 with seas as high as 14 feet near the Pribs. And for West Coast on Friday, winds variable direction looks like 20 to 30 with seas as high as 11 feet there near the Pribs. For the Arctic Coast region, winds generally from a northeasterly direction 20 to 25. In the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from the east at 35, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally east at 30 with seas as high as 10 feet. And for Friday, for the Arctic Coast in the Beaufort Sea, winds generally from the northeast at 15 to 25. For the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from the northeast at 30 to 40. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the northeast at 25, seas as high as 9 feet in the open water areas. Looking at tonight's weather, main feature would be the 977 millibar low in the Gulf moving north, and associated with that system some moderate rain and light snow showers in through the Bristol Bay region and into Kodiak Island. Otherwise, scattered snow showers through the Panhandle, light rain at the lower elevations of the Panhandle, blowing and drifting snow through much of the Seward Peninsula, portions of the western interior, and freezing fog along the north slope and areas of low pressure out in the Bering Sea, causing mixed precipitation. For Thursday's weather, that low moves into the Gulf, 979 millibar low now, with moderate rain at lower elevations of the Panhandle and snow showers moderate further inland and across the coastal mountains. Strong pressure gradients continue through the interior, blowing and drifting snow, especially in the western interior, and freezing fog along the north slope.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.